All right, some folks who are standing could take seats. They're here for that purpose. Good morning. Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. I couldn't be more excited or honored to be here with this incredible group for what we are about to do today, which is make history for the city of Boston and really set the tone for the rest of the country. This is my first official ordinance signing as mayor, and it's just so meaningful to be standing here with Councilor Lydia Edwards, Councilor Matt O'Malley, the partners on this ordinance that we had shepherded through together for a very long time on the City Council. It was in 2014, in my first year on the council, that Councilor O'Malley and I first took up the issue of really trying to push for Boston to speak up, to stand out, to take action when it comes to divesting from harmful industries, divesting from fossil fuels, and reinvesting into our own communities. We passed a resolution then, we joined efforts at the state, and we had a vision of one day moving towards more concrete action at the local level. Enter Councilor Edwards and so many of our incredible advocates who are here today and organizations who have been partners in this fight, Chief Mariama White-Hammond, Senator Markey, so many others who have really pushed to make sure that we could take clear, decisive action to the greatest of our ability at the local level. And so there are many folks who are going to be speaking today who I'm excited to announce. Of course, we're joined by our senator and the author of the Federal Green New Deal. We are joined by our chief, who will speak after him. We will hear from Reverend Vernon Walker from the Sierra Club, and then we will close out the speaking program with someone who is one of my heroes, Bill McKibben, who is in town to help us celebrate this today. I wanted just to quickly also acknowledge many of the organizations who are represented here. By no means is this an exhaustive or comprehensive list, but I do want to shout out 350 Mass, Climate Finance Action, Boston Clean Energy Coalition, the Sierra Club, the Environmental League of Massachusetts, advocates and climate activists, academics from Boston University, Eastie Farms, representatives from Senator Cynthia Cream's office, 350.org, Ceres, and Sunrise Boston. So many of these leaders who I just named have been working from all angles when it comes to addressing our climate crisis. This is deeply personal for many of us and urgent. My older son Blaze was born in the first year that I served in this building, and the first year that we started to hear it was the hottest year ever on record. Since then, his 6 years alive on this planet have each been our hottest on record. And we're moving quickly to make sure that Boston will set the tone for what's possible for that brightest, greenest future for all of our kids. And I know many efforts have been already underway, led by our chief, when it comes to truly linking our climate-just future with jobs, with a vision of Boston for everyone. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to the sponsors of this ordinance, Councilor Lydia Edwards and Councilor Matt O'Malley.
Well, this is a wonderful day. It's a historic day, and I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate the first ordinance of Mayor Wu, but also the first major step for Boston to walk into a green future, for green jobs, for green investment. This is the way to do it, and it's so wonderful to see our city leading the way. The fact of the matter is, a budget is a statement of values, and how we choose to talk and walk need to be consistent as a city. We have talked about being greener, we have talked about being cleaner, but where our money was being invested didn't line up with that. Today, the two are walking together. Our money, our values, we are making sure that we are truly investing in the most fiscally responsible way, but also in a way that provides for a future for our children's children's children. We have to leave this city a better place. We have to be stronger as a city, and this is the best way to do this. As many of you have already read the details, upon signature, this is moving $65 million immediately away from fossil fuels and preventing any more investments going forward. This is a part of our value system and part of how we've led on so many different ways, whether it was divesting from South Africa, we were divesting from tobacco, and today we're now divesting from fossil fuels. So I have to say, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Mayor Wu, for your leadership. Thank you, Councilor O'Malley, for your leadership. It took many cracks at this glass ceiling, and it took years of that from many of these advocates for generations thinking about this. Before we even knew the word divestment, they were there. They were talking about this. There are so many people to thank, and many of them have been recognized, but I do have to recognize some individuals who were particular in drafting this ordinance. My former policy director, he now is Chief of Staff for Boston Housing Authority, Joel Wool. I want to recognize him. He also worked at Clean Water Action Fund, so I just want to acknowledge that organization. I also want to acknowledge Green Roots. It's an organization in East Boston, and let's be very clear, this is part of the very mandate that we received on November 2nd, when well over 90,000 people voted against fossil fuel infrastructure in East Boston and against the substation. So I want to acknowledge the grassroots movement that brought that question about as well. There are so many people on this list, and I will not thank all of them necessarily, but I just have to acknowledge so many people from ACE who came to the hearings. We had, and also to the Treasury Department here at the City of Boston, Drew Smith, who is no longer with us, but also Maureen Gosso and Richard DiPiano from the Treasury Department came there and crunched the numbers with us. They came back with edits for us to make sure that this was the most fiscally sound way to move our money from fossil fuels. I want to also thank, it was Dr. Richard Clapp, Emily Norton from Charles River Watershed, Bob Massey, who also came and testified, of course, Kanan from East Boston as well. Again, there's so many people here to thank for everything that they did, but I am just truly honored to have and be here in front of our chief, Mariama, White-Hammond, and of course, Senator Markey, the author of the Green New Deal at the federal level. We're leading. Boston's going to do this, and we're going to show other people how to do it the green way. Thank you.
Welcome to day 6 of a Wu administration. On day 3, I mentioned what a visionary mayor we have as she expanded free T buses, fare-free buses, and now on day 6, we're not even a week in, ladies and gentlemen, and I think Michelle Wu is demonstrating not only why she is the right person for this time, but she will be an absolutely transformative leader on the issues that are important to us, not the least of which is climate change, the existential threat that we are battling in. As a coastal city, we are acutely aware. This is an important day, and as has been mentioned by the mayor, we began this work 7 years ago with a resolution which I can now admit as my time on the council is coming up isn't exactly the most binding piece of legislation, but even that was difficult to get passed, believe it or not. And we've seen a sea change, I think, in the climate movement and on the importance of climate policy, and to now have a mayor who not only understands that and values that, but is going to lead with that, always looking through the lens of equity, of justice, and environmentalism. This is a really big day for this city, and mark my words, other cities will follow suit. You know, I've often said on the council floor, and my colleagues could repeat it verbatim, that every fiscal conservative ought to be an environmentalist. Because the fact of the matter is not only what we are doing today, pioneered by people like Bill McKibben, like Ed Markey, like so many other activists who are up here today who've been doing this work for so long, Bob Massey as well. Not only what we are doing is right for the planet, but it's also right for the pensioners of the City of Boston. It's right for the taxpayers of the City of Boston, because the Dow Jones Sustainability Index regularly outperforms the Dow Jones Industrial Average every day. So not only are we moving our money from a bad investment, morally bad and morally wrong, but we're going to do something that generates better revenue for the city, for the taxpayers of the City of Boston. This is that wonderful confluence of something that's right for the taxpayer and right for our planet as well, and I am just so grateful to every person here who's made it possible. This is a great day for the city. Thank you so much for your leadership, Mayor Wu. Good day.
Next up, we'll hear from someone who is a champion at the federal level, but who has been here for Boston every step of the way as well, the author of the Federal Green New Deal, Senator Ed Markey.
Whoa. So congratulations, Madam Mayor. Congratulations, Councilor Edwards, Councilor O'Malley, for your historic leadership on this issue. Today is big, big day. Mayor Wu has the leadership abilities to just transform the way in which cities across our country view this issue. And today, what we can say is this is what a Green New Deal city looks like in the United States of America. So Reverend Hammond and Reverend Walker, Bill McKibben, great 350.org leader, Cabell, look at you out there, Bob Massey, ELM, Elizabeth, thank you for your great work, Sierra Club, Green Root, Sunrise. This is a huge day. Right off our coast here, Boston Harbor is part of the Gulf of Maine. It is the second fastest warming body of water on the planet. Boston is at the center of this dangerous science experiment, which is taking place on this planet with the fossil fuel companies using us as the experiment. What the mayor is signing today is a declaration of independence from the oil, gas, and coal industries. It started here at the Old Knot Church with Paul Revere. So these are the climate Paul Reveres who are standing up and saying that that Boston is going to be the leader. And the reality is that there are going to be ultimately trillions of dollars of stranded assets for the oil, gas, and coal industry as we move to an electric car future, as we move to a wind and solar and battery storage future. We are making the correct investment decision for our country because that energy source, the fossil fuel industry, is the technology of the past. What Boston represents here today is the future of our state, of our country, and of our planet. It is an honor to be with you today as Boston declares itself to be a green monster for the United States of America and for the rest of the world to look like. Congratulations, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Senator. Next up is our Chief of Energy, Environment, and Open Space, and someone who has brought a deep knowledge of community and track record of advocacy and justice making into City Hall and many, many initiatives, Reverend Mariama White-Hammond.
Thank you, Mayor Wu and Senator Markey and Councilors Edwards and O'Malley. And there are so many people that I know up here. So the way we do it in church is we say, protocol having been established, which means that we have called out, named so many people who deserve to be lifted up and many who are not here. It's a beautiful thing when advocates come together with government to demand action on the things that matter most. As an activist myself, I believe this ordinance reflects the best of what government can do when we collectively work together towards our shared values. It sends a strong signal of where Boston stands in our fight against the climate crisis and the prison industrial complex, and where we are headed in a shared future. We know that if the human race is to thrive, the fossil fuel industry must leave oil and gas in the ground. And case studies from other municipalities show that investing in efficient energy sources rather than fossil fuels is more profitable and supports our collective bottom line. These are all the things that Mayor Wu, when she was Councilor Wu, knew that Councilor O'Malley and Councilor Edwards, but we are finally getting to a day where these values and these possibilities are manifesting. And we also stand in firm belief that there should never be a profit motive to lock up more people or to separate families unjustly. The very first organizing cause I ever got involved was in the 7th grade when I joined the movement to boycott Coca-Cola to demand divestment from South Africa. I didn't have a lot of money or the ability to participate in shareholder meetings. This was pre-Facebook, so I could barely figure out where the rallies were, and there were not any online petitions back then. But I remember going to summer camp where there were only Coca-Cola products available. And so every day I drank water as an act of solidarity, doing what I could do in my small way. And so I was beaming with pride when I was selected a year later to sing as part of the children's choir that welcomed Nelson Mandela here to Boston. Through that movement, I learned the importance of economic activism, like the kind we celebrate today. At every opportunity, from our household budget to our city treasury, we need to make sure our dollars are in alignment with our values. This ordinance gives us an opportunity to walk away from fossil fuels and, more importantly, to walk towards a green economy that lifts up workers and values them with good-paying jobs that are open, particularly to those who are returning to our communities from being incarcerated. And so I'm proud to stand with Mayor Wu, to stand with our councilors, to stand with all of the activists and folks gathered here today as we join a global movement to divest from the fossil fuel industry, from tobacco, and from private prisons. I'd like to share my deepest gratitude for everyone who's here today, but for also all the people who have passed on. Whenever I wear these earrings, it means that I've begun the morning thinking about the ancestors. And many of the people I met in that original South Africa divestment movement have gone on. But I'm really thankful for what they taught me and the movement that they've sparked. I'm thankful for young people at universities across this nation who kept this up when other people said they were crazy. And I'm thankful that now we stand here. We stand in the path of those trailblazers, and we look forward not just to the divestment, but the work to reinvest in our communities, in our young people, and in the kinds of industries that will save us and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. There are far too many organizations to have everyone speak, so we have appointed Reverend Vernon Walker from the Sierra Club of Massachusetts to represent our incredible community partners. Thank you, Reverend, for all of your work. Please.
Good morning, everyone. We are gathered here today for this momentous occasion, and we are so glad about it. So good to be with so many activists, some of our wonderful elected officials, our new mayor, to send a message to the nation that we need to transition off of fossil fuels, coal, and gas. We cannot wait. Change cannot wait. We are the change that we seek. So I'm so glad that by the signing of this ordinance, the message will go out to the nation and to the world that we ought to take this climate crisis serious, because we know that it's dangerous, it's bold, and it's the greatest existential threat to our human existence. The Sierra Club applauds Mayor Wu's strong and sensible climate leadership. Our new mayor understands that to build a climate-resilient Boston, the city must divest from corporations that are powering and accelerating the climate crisis. The outdated, expensive, and dirty 20th century of fossil fuel energy technologies can no longer be a part of a sustainable Boston moving forward. So again, we are so glad that this ordinance will be signed today by our new mayor, Michelle Wu, and we are so glad that we have activist, bold, and progressive leadership in the city. And as this ordinance becomes signed, the nation is watching, the world is watching, and let us band together. And we send this message that we are stronger together than we are apart, and it's time to interlock to say no to the fossil fuel companies, and yes to a clean future, yes to a Green New Deal, yes to sustainable communities and living. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Walker. And to close out the formal speaking program, someone whose leadership and vision has helped plant the seeds for this movement to blossom and who has led the way on divestment, on each one of us to recognize our power as individuals, as economic participants, Bill McKibben.
Well, Mayor Wu, thank you so much for this day. Now, I'm the ringer here because I didn't wake up in Boston. I woke up in the Green Mountains of Vermont, where I live. And as I drove down today with my colleague Jamie Henn, who helped start all this divestment work a decade ago, I was thinking about how much I love this city and about all the things that one associates when one thinks of green and Boston. There's that large wall in left field. There's that leprechaun on the center of the parquet at the Garden. There's the Green Line. But today, Boston has a claim, at least for a day, to being the greenest city in the country, because this new ordinance is so important and so powerful. And of course, it's responsible to the green that we all have to care about when we're in government and politics and anything else. This is a good way to make sure that the taxpayers of Boston don't waste any more money trying to bankroll the rogue industry that has given us the climate crisis we're in. But it's also so remarkable just to see this statement being made. And so one looks backward and forward. One looks backward, as Reverend White-Hammond said, to people who came before us. When we started this divestment campaign, the very first person we called was Desmond Tutu in South Africa, because we knew the work that he had done to make divestment at the center of the anti-apartheid campaign. And he said, yes, climate change is the human rights question of our time, the way that apartheid was of an earlier generation. Please take this and run with it. And people did run with it, so many of them here around Boston. One group of people who should just be in our minds are the college students who, for 2, 3, 4 generations now of college students at UMass Boston, at Lesley, at BC, at BU, at Harvard, at MIT, at place after place, have made this case over and over and over again. And their voices, too, are really resounding here today. We look to the past, but we also look to the future. This is an important moment because it builds huge momentum. Signal goes out first, half a mile to Beacon Hill. We need the state legislature doing exactly the same thing and making sure that the state's pension funds are divested from fossil fuel right away. But the signal goes out all over the world. I've just come back from Glasgow. It was not a particularly ennobling couple of weeks, but one of the things that clearly was working was this movement to move money away from the companies that have spent 3 decades lying about the climate crisis and that now are doing everything they can to delay action. We're at $40 trillion now in portfolios and investment and endowments that have divested from fossil fuel, and it is beginning to move this vast system in big ways. You are an exceptional part of this work. We know that you have many, many other things to do here in Boston in the next few years. We know that this city will be transformed the way that Mayor Hidalgo has transformed Paris in the last few years, the way that other great cities. But this is a wonderful, wonderful place to start, to stand up to power and say, no more. Time now for real change before it gets any later than it already is. Thank you so much, Mayor Wu.
Okay, I invite everyone to come around. My name is very short, so it'll be very fast.
Wait, did you do it in the end?